Overnight, Israel began military operations against Iran with a stated goal of once and for all destroying the Iranian nuclear program. Today, we're going to get into what we know so far as this campaign continues to play out, and that's important. This is not a series of a couple strikes. This is going to be a sustained military campaign for hours, days, maybe even weeks. So what we know at this point is that Israeli aircraft, about 200, struck more than 100 targets all across Iran. That included nuclear facilities, and we have some footage of those clearly burning at this point, although I'd be hesitant to say that they were fully destroyed quite yet. Also, the specific targeting of senior Iranian personnel, military leadership, as well as key officials in their nuclear program. Right now, Israel is referring to this operation as Strength of a Lion and saying that they had to go after the Iranian nuclear program because there was an imminent threat building in the coming days. So what we're going to do today is update this as of 6:30 a.m. on Friday, June 13th, 2025. The plan will be to come back and provide additional details as more information is known in the coming hours. Starting out with the effects of these strikes so far, again, a lot of footage showing the destruction across Iran today. Not just fires burning throughout Tehran last night and smoke rising above the skyline, but also clearly some nuclear facilities with smoke emanating from those. Given the fact of how far underground some of these enrichment facilities are, it would not be wise at this point to say that the Iranian nuclear program has been eliminated. That's a challenging thing to do from the sky at baseline. We should expect, and Israel is saying this is the case, a prolonged campaign continually going after those facilities for some time. Now, right now, we already have confirmation from Iranian media of at least 3 senior Iranian officials that were eliminated in last night's strike. So this does not appear to have just been a campaign going after the physical aspects of the nuclear program and the Iranian military, because we certainly have some air defense assets that were hit last night as well and some long-range missiles, but also some senior officials. Right now, we're hearing that the chief of staff of the armed forces of the Iranian regime, Mohammad Bagheri, was eliminated, and there was some back and forth yesterday as to whether or not they were actually killed. But all in all, Iranian media was pretty quick in confirming the death of some of these senior officials. Just as notable, we have the commander of the IRGC, Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, Qasem Salami, who just a couple days ago was issuing threats about how any sort of Iranian and or U.S. attack against the Iranian nuclear facilities would be met with direct strikes against U.S. military bases in the region. Have to mention, of course, here, the curse of Soleimani continues. We have a picture of Salami. No surprise, given that he's the head of the IRGC with the late Soleimani. And there's kind of a theme. Anybody that gets their picture taken with Soleimani before too awful long ends up on the wrong end of a drone strike. And the last one here that's been confirmed today. Again, this list continues to grow. I've seen the head of the Iranian, the IRGC, or the Iranian Military Emergency Command, Gholam Ali Rashid. Now, there's also been a number of senior Iranian nuclear officials that have been eliminated. We have some pictures showing their residences in Tehran, office buildings or homes that were hit overnight. You can see some of these penthouse locations in downtown Tehran that were struck, and we do have some confirmation from Iranian media that a handful of those folks were eliminated as well. This is something we talked about in yesterday's video, just leading up to this attack, was when you're trying to eliminate the nuclear program, it's not enough at this point to just destroy the facilities. There's a lot of knowledge inside of Iran, especially with these scientists, of how to, if the facilities are destroyed, to get right back to this place in the relative near future. So, appears at this point Israel went after not just the physical locations, but also the brain power behind the nuclear program. We also did see that Israel went after quite a few surface-to-air missile systems and long-range missile systems at the beginning of this campaign. It looks like right now Israel Mossad specifically carried out something very much similar to the Ukrainian Operation Spiderweb a couple weeks ago. The information that we have right now is it appears that Mossad smuggled in a series of short-range drones, pre-staged those near some key locations, and as this attack began to carry out by Israel, which there's still some speculation about how much of it was missiles, how much was aircraft, and was there anyone on the ground carrying out sabotage-type operations, but Nonetheless, as that was playing out, we do have some footage that's been released showing Mossad on the ground in Iran carrying out some of these short-range strikes. According to some reporting from Manny Fabian of the Times of Israel, he says, according to an Israeli official, Mossad built a secret explosive drone base in Iran for this morning's operation. The drones were used to strike ballistic missile launchers at a base near Tehran, preventing Iran from firing projectiles at Israel as this morning's strikes began. Additionally, vehicles carrying weapon systems were smuggled into Iran. These systems took out Iran's air defenses and gave Israeli planes air supremacy and freedom of action over Iran. A third covert effort involved Mossad's commandos deploying precision missiles near anti-aircraft sites in central Iran. So you can view that as confirmation of people on the ground carrying out strikes against Iran as this all began. We've not seen footage of those precision missile strikes against anti-aircraft sites, but nonetheless, that is the Israeli claim right now. I hope we're paying attention in the United States, selfishly, to this threat of inexpensive, short-range loitering munitions or drones, whatever you want to call them, being smuggled into hostile territory. So for Ukraine going into Russia, hostile territory. For Mossad, Israel going into Iran, hostile territory. Effectively getting these in and carrying out what are strategically damaging blows. Right? So in the case of Russia and Ukraine, they took out some of Russia's nuclear-capable bombers. It's no joke. In this case, it appears Israel went after some of the Iranian missiles that would have been aimed and could have responded in short order to these strikes. These are serious assets being taken out very, very quickly in relatively inexpensive manner. We're not looking for that, right? We're looking for the missiles. We're looking for the aircraft. I don't know that very many countries around the world, the United States included right now, is looking for short-range drones coming out of the back of a container or a vehicle near a sensitive location. Nonetheless, looks like, and there's no indication, I should mention at this point, that Ukraine and Israel teamed up on this in any way, shape, or form, although Ukraine would certainly be happy to see Tehran burning, given Iran's support for Russia in their war. Now, I want to start with some statements here coming directly from IDF and Israeli officials, starting with kind of an explanation of why this had to happen now. We're going to turn to the IDF spokesperson, Brigadier General Defrin. Let's give that a listen.
For years, the Iranian regime has called for the destruction of the State of Israel, planning and advancing concrete military plans to do so. Over the past few months, intelligence has shown that Iran is closer than ever to obtaining a nuclear weapon. This morning, the IDF began preemptive and precise strikes targeting the Iranian nuclear program in order to prevent the Iranian regime's ability to build a nuclear bomb in the immediate time frame. We have no choice. We are operating against an imminent and existential threat. We cannot allow the Iranian regime to obtain a nuclear weapon that would be a danger to Israel and the entire world. This operation is for our right to exist here, for our future and for our children's future. The State of Israel has the right and the obligation to operate in order to protect its people and will continue to do so. The IDF conducted significant preparations for this operation. We are well prepared both in defense and offense to defend ourselves. The IDF will continue to defend the State of Israel.
So in line with that, we should mention that just in the last couple days, the IAEA, International Atomic Energy Agency, has issued a report that for the first time in 20 years, Iran is in violation of their non-proliferation obligations. And then yesterday, Israel released additional footage and documentation highlighting that Iran was, of course, not just not in compliance, as the IAEA, the UN's nuclear watchdog, stated, but also that they were working towards the development of a nuclear bomb and were closer today than they have ever been. So this is Israel presenting proof. Again, you're hearing the term there, preemptive strike, saying they had to do this now. They couldn't afford to wait any longer because Iran was getting so dangerously close to the development of their first nuclear weapon. Now, continuing on with some IDF statements here, to pull out some other aspects not mentioned in General Defrin's statement, the IDF said, quote, "For years, Iran has been directly and indirectly promoting terrorism against the State of Israel, financing and directing terrorists act through its proxies through the Middle East while advancing towards nuclear weapons. The Iranian regime is the primary perpetrator of all terrorist attacks committed against the State of Israel since the beginning of the Iron Sword War, including arming and financing the Hamas terrorist organization responsible for the events of October 7th. During the Iron Sword War, Iran even attacked Israel twice, firing hundreds of missiles and unmanned aerial vehicles into the country. The Iranian regime has a stated goal of destroying the State of Israel. Senior Iranian regime officials declare this and are working to realize it with their envoys in the Middle East. Iran is closer today than ever to obtaining nuclear weapons. Weapons of mass destruction in the hands of the Iranian regime are a threat to the State of Israel and a significant threat to the entire world. The State of Israel will not allow a regime whose goal is the destruction of the State of Israel to possess weapons of mass destruction. Now, we're going to get to some statements from U.S. President Trump here in a moment, but that's also been the stance that he's taken. And the United States stance for a long time is that Iran cannot be permitted to obtain nuclear weapons. The Israeli stance right now is that that time had come. Put up or shut up. They were so close that the only viable option at this point was kinetic military strikes. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu stated, quote, "In recent months, Iran has taken steps in the field of armaments that have never done before. This is a weapon that could threaten our very existence. We struck at the heart of Iran's nuclear enrichment program and nuclear weaponization efforts. We targeted Iran's main enrichment facility at Natanz. We also targeted leading Iranian nuclear scientists working on the bomb, as well as the core of Iran's ballistic missile program." Again, pretty widespread attacks so far today, and it's just beginning. By all accounts, this is going to go on for some time. The chief of staff of the IDF added to this, saying, quote, "Civilians of Israel, these are decisive days. We are currently at the start of a new phase in the operation to secure our future. It's no doubt decisive days. We've been hearing about the possibility, the necessity at times of striking the Iranian nuclear program for about 20 years now. So this is significant, to say the least." Zamir continues saying, "We began this operation because the time has come. We are at the point of no return. We cannot afford to wait for another time to operate. We have no other choice. Recent and past events of history have taught us that when the enemy is attempting to destroy us, we must not turn a blind eye. As such, we need to fight for our existence. The freedom is given to those willing to fight for it. Civilians of Israel, I can't promise absolute success. The Iranian regime will attempt to attack us in response. The expected toll will be different than what we are used to. The IDF is prepared to defend the Israeli home front, and I ask for you to be responsible for yourselves, for your family, for your communities, and listen to instructions. We are calling up tens of thousands of soldiers and prepared across all borders. I warn that anyone who will try to challenge us will pay a heavy price. We are entering this operation together with one goal, to secure a safer future for the State of Israel and its civilians in a unified effort and faith. We will win. 77 years since the State of Israel was established, the nation of the Jewish people founded after the Holocaust, we stand again for survival." Now, looking at a couple other reactions and statements here, as this was beginning, a major question was, how is the United States going to be involved, if at all? And it appears at this point, we were not. In fact, that was hammered home by Secretary of State Rubio, issuing a statement as soon as this operation began, saying, quote, "Tonight, Israel took unilateral action against Iran. We are not involved in strikes against Iran, and our top priority is protecting American forces in the region. Israel advised us that they believe this action was necessary for its self-defense. President Trump and the administration have taken all necessary steps to protect our forces and remain in close contact with our regional partners. Let me be clear, Iran should not target U.S. interests or personnel." And of course, that's a major concern as we look towards the Iranian response here, is as mentioned in yesterday's video, there are a lot more American than Israeli targets for Iran to strike in the Middle East. And generally speaking, those targets are softer. They might be military bases, consulates, or embassies, but in terms of the quantity of air defense overseeing some of those assets, it's nowhere near what when you look at the entire State of Israel. So I wouldn't set it aside completely that Iran decides to, or wouldn't brush it aside entirely that Iran doesn't go after U.S. assets. In fact, some of their statements already today are conflating this Israeli attack with their support from the United States, and in some ways saying they're one and the same. President Trump then earlier today issued a statement saying, quote, "I gave Iran chance after chance to make a deal. I told them in the strongest words to just do it. but no matter how hard they tried, no matter how close they got, they just couldn't get it done. I told them it would be much worse than anything they know, anticipated, or were told. That the United States makes the best and most lethal military equipment anywhere in the world by far, and that Israel has a lot of it, with much more to come, and they know how to use it. Certain Iranian hardliners spoke bravely, but they didn't know what was about to happen. They're all dead now, and it will only get worse. There has already been great death and destruction, but there is still time to make this slaughter, with the next already planned attacks being even more brutal to come to an end. Iran must make a deal before there is nothing left and save what was once known as the Iranian Empire. No more death, no more destruction, just do it before it's too late. Now, technically, there's still talks set to be had this Sunday. I haven't heard the United States cancel those, although Iran has said they're probably not going to participate in those nuclear negotiations with the United States. Now, turning over to the Iranian response so far, remember, leading up to this, there were a lot of threats saying they would go after U.S. military bases across the region. They talked about the development and the testing of a 2-ton missile warhead, a warhead that was delivered on a missile, suggesting that it could be some sort of nuclear-capable device. What we're seeing so far, a couple statements here coming from the chief of staff of the Iranian armed forces, quote, "The Zionist enemy in the United States will pay a very heavy price. Iran will respond harshly against the Zionist regime. The Zionist attack on civilian areas has been verified, and our response will be certain. Iran is 100% military capable, and the enemy will suffer a painful blow." Here's the thing. It looks like the Israeli attack was focused not just at destroying the Iranian nuclear infrastructure, but also preventing their ability to respond in a timely and effective manner. So when you go after the senior leaders of an organization, that at baseline is going to slow the ability of the Iranian regime to carry out a response. On top of that, it looks like Israel went after quite a few missile facilities with that, secret covert drone operation hitting targets all around Tehran. What we have seen so far is maybe 100 Iranian drones so far launched against Israel, which is not much of a response given what we've seen in the past. Public Israeli estimates were as many as 600 drones and missiles being fired in the first wave. We haven't seen that yet. Iran continues to say that it's on its way. I also want to stress that depending on which Iranian source you look at, some of them are adding the United States to the list of those responsible. Others are exclusively saying Israel. The drone strikes so far, from what I can see, all of them were effectively intercepted or crashed before entering Israeli airspace. It does appear that some of them were intercepted by Saudi Arabia. There were reports that the United States and the UK may have been involved in the interception as well, but that was not confirmed, and I've not seen any statements from those two governments. Either way, none of those drones made it into Israeli airspace, let alone impacted inside of Israel. There was some speculation last night that the Iranian Supreme Leader Khamenei would issue a declaration of war against Israel. That still has not come, but I thought it was worth going into his statement, the one thing he's mentioned so far following this first round of Israeli strikes. He said, "The Zionist regime at dawn today opened its dirty and bloody hand in a crime in our beloved country and revealed its evil nature more than ever by striking residential centers. The regime must expect severe punishment. The powerful hand of the Islamic Republic's armed forces will not abandon him. Several commanders and scientists were martyred in the enemy attacks. Their successors and colleagues will immediately resume their duties, God willing. With this crime, the Zionist regime prepared for itself a bitter and painful fate, and it will definitely receive it." Now, the big question now is, what does Iran do in response? We should expect to see Israeli strikes continue. It looks like they mentioned it earlier, not air superiority, air supremacy, and that appears to be the case. We've seen in the last couple years, really, mostly the last couple months, Israel has pretty successfully degraded the Iranian air defense network, and we knew that they had taken some hits. At this point, it looks like they can go wherever they want in Iranian airspace. There's no indications that any Israeli aircraft were shot down, and all reports from Israel is that all pilots and aircraft returned home safely. So when looking at the possible Iranian response here, the big one, of course, being drones and missiles like we've seen them carry out in recent years, but there's a couple other aspects here as well. They do have kind of non-traditional, non-conventional means of striking back. A big one, of course, being their proxy networks across the Middle East. There was some concern last night that maybe Hezbollah in Lebanon, still there, to a degree. The Houthis down in Yemen or a variety of Iranian-backed militias in Iraq would begin carrying out attacks on behalf of Iran. We haven't seen that yet. It's possible. It's always in the cards. We haven't seen that at this point. We also have to keep an eye out for the possibility of terrorist attacks carried out abroad against embassies, consulates, or strategic assets for the United States, Israel, and other Western partners. And then last but not least, cyber attacks. Iran does have a pretty significant cyber capability. I wouldn't rule that out entirely, especially if some of their more kinetic means of attack, like their missiles and their senior military officials that would help carry out those strikes, are no longer around to put those into action. But again, this is what we know as of now, 6:48 now a.m. on Friday, June 13th, 2025. We'll update this as we get more information, but pretty historic event as Israel begins operations to militarily take out the Iranian nuclear program. But that's all I've got for now. Thanks for watching, and I'll see y'all next time.